All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Uncomfortable Chat. We got a fun one today. It's a little different than our normal podcast, but it's a great conversation. We got Will Wilcox, former PGA Tour player turned caddy for Sungjae Im. If you're unfamiliar with Will and his story, it's a wild one for sure. Will was obviously a great golfer, one of the best ball strikers I've ever played with. The guy was just absolutely uber talented with a golf club in his hand. But he got into, as he'll tell you, he got into some drug issues, and a little bit of alcohol, and that's the way he played golf. I couldn't touch a pill other than ibuprofen, or I definitely didn't drink while I was playing golf professionally. But he couldn't play unless he was hopped up on some kind of a pill for a little while. So it's an incredible story. It's even better that Willie's on the good side of it now. He's got himself cleaned up, and he's living his best life out there with Sungjae, making a boatload of cash, traveling 40 weeks a year on the best tour in the world. So without further ado, I give you Will Wilcox. All right, let's get cranking. And now I want to welcome on a very special guest. He's the 2008 Alabama amateur champion who played in 72 PGA Tour events, 132 Korn Ferry events, and is now caddying for the human ATM in Sungjae Im. Please welcome to the podcast the pride of Birmingham, Alabama, Mr. Will Wilcox. How we doing, Big Willie?
Yeah. I think Sepp Straka might be the pride of Birmingham now, but yeah, good dude. Out here at Torrey, loving it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You guys are on a nice little run here. So obviously, first off, I want to thank you a lot for coming on.
Yeah.
I know our listeners are excited to have you on here as well, and I think I can speak for most of the guys on tour and saying you've always been one of the good dudes on tour, one of the most genuine guys out there. You're always fun to play with and get to know. So definitely appreciate you coming on. And before we get started in your own career, tell everybody about caddying for Sungjae and where that relationship got started, and love to hear about the caddy side first, and then we'll touch back up on your career.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, mine. The deal with Sungjae is amazing. I mean, it's like the right place, right time, right situation, the way it all happened. I mean, when he got in the States in 2018 as a 19-year-old, yeah, he was 19, first event out. I actually got an exemption because I just lost my tour card, but finished 201. But then they gave me 201. So in 17, and then in 18 they gave me a spot into Exuma, and I make the cut on the number, and then it starts blowing like 30, and I shoot the end of the day by like 366, and 6 under is leading through 3 rounds. I'm 6 under, Sungjae's 6 under. So we're paired in the final group together, and he ends up winning by 6, and I came in like 4th. And then the next tournament, I ended up, we were actually both tied for the lead again, and then so yeah, we got paired together again in his second week out, and I was just very engaging with him, and I was more of a fan. I wasn't like competing against him, because I saw how good he was immediately. So, but anyways, so yeah, I got paired with him in his first 2 weeks in the States. And then that whole year, I almost got my tour card. So I was around him a lot. I was engaging with, I was just like, dude, you're the man. Like, like all year long, I was like, you're sick. And, anyways, so he goes on to get his tour card, yada, yada, yada. And then, I got a bag at the U.S. Open in 23, and let's see. Oh, and when I caddied for Lonto Griffin, and we got paired with him in the 3rd round at Torrey here in 23, and then he saw me again at the U.S. Open. And he was I was caddying for the amateur Ben Carr, and he saw me again, and he was on him and his current caddy. He was trying to find another caddy at the time. And so he hired me. He hired me right on the spot at LACC. Just because he remembered my playing,
Yep.
and he always just just was like, "There's Willie," like he knew me.
Yep.
And he, the fact that I played on tour is a huge thing in their culture. And I just remember he goes, "Willie, you caddy?" I was like, "Yeah, I caddy." And he's like, "You caddy for me." So I was like, "I caddy for you," and that was almost 2 years ago. So
That's awesome. Match made in heaven, man.
yeah,
Yeah, I got to go back here to part at the beginning of your story there. So you guys were top of the lead in Exuma the year that it went just, I mean, just pumping wind down there.
that was the previous year, but it was
Okay.
still blowing 1,000.
Yeah.
It was still blowing 1,000, but it wasn't like the 40-mile-an-hour.
Yeah, yeah, that does not surprise me at all that you two would contend there in that wind, with you two being
Yeah,
two of the best ball strikers I've ever seen. So that makes perfect sense. But yeah,
it was just it was sick.
yeah, you guys both just hit it on a rope and control your golf ball. So that makes a
That
ton of
week
sense.
I did.
Yeah.
That week I did.
I'm curious, being out there for a couple years now in Lupin, have you learned anything from watching him from that side of the bag that you wish you had known during your own playing days?
I mean, shoot, I just now the analytical part of the golf courses, and I've certainly chipped way better watching him, but like just the drawing the slopes on the greens, and um, marking where you don't want to go on a short side, or just like where's an area to this pin that's completely dead. Just things like that. I mean, my book now, I'm drawing all over it. I love to get the number, get what it's playing, the club, and then the carry distance. You know, right.
Yeah,
Left to right wind, hurt, 6 iron, 167 meters, and then chart all that.
yeah.
And excuse me. And so yeah, I mean, I didn't even carry a book when I was playing. And not to mention, I didn't even do my loft and lies. I didn't even
Really?
know loft and lie was. Yeah, they like nobody said, "Will, you need to get your shit checked a lot."
Yeah. You just grabbed the
So
club and
I
learned how to
literally,
hit it.
just was like, I guess I need to do this. And so yeah, I'm a completely different human being now. I didn't even know, this is really crazy. I didn't even know that the prevailing wind direction was something that you needed to check.
Really?
Like literally, like I had no idea until I'd had my card for 3 years, and I get 2 years, and I've been pair with Boo weekly, and he was like, "What's that wind today?" I was like, "From over there." And he was like, "No, what was it this morning when you checked it?" I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Oh my God. Well, you should have about 10 wins and three majors. Holy hell. Yeah,
Crazy.
going back in time, you need a yardage book, man. That's
Yeah,
who
I
was
know.
looping for you back in the day?
Just a buddy. I mean, Kevin Enzer wasn't like a tour caddy. He was
Yeah.
just a dude. He worked for me for 4 years. I mean, Kevin was just my buddy. I mean, he
Yeah.
he would just go to the steakhouse with me, and we get trashed on Sunday night after a good finish. Um, so yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. Anyways, the way he plays and the way you have to be as a caddy at these elite tournaments. I mean,
Yeah.
my first event was the first signature event, or the first $20 million purse at Connecticut a few years ago. So, but yeah, I mean, you just, when somebody's relying on you like that, you got to know that stuff,
Yeah.
to know whether to air long or air short or air left or air right to every pin. So,
Yep.
um, yeah.
Well, I'm not a great math whiz here, but a T3 at the Century to start the year and a T4 at Torrey Pines a couple weeks ago. He's just under about $2 million, or right around $2 million so far this year, and
Yeah. And
eight
it was a,
percent of that's a yeah, 8% of that's a decent number if I can do some quick math. So you're I know you'd like to
yeah.
be out there whacking the golf ball around again, but that's not a bad bag to have. And
I would not like to do that. Golf is way too stressful. Doing it this way is on another planet. It was a solo third at Century.
there you go. More
But
money.
yeah, 1.36 million.
Jesus.
So yeah, it's crazy. I mean the caddies, there are multiple caddies making $1 million a year.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
I
just
mean,
wild.
it's ridiculous.
But to be said, to
Yeah,
be
you
fair
tell
though,
people.
I was just
Uh,
gonna say, to be fair, the caddy game has changed completely out there. Where it used to be just pick
mhm.
somebody up in a parking lot, and now all these guys are young,
Yeah,
clean cut. They got their stuff together. They know the golf. Most of them were former golfers. So
yeah,
the caddy game has gone exponentially the other way, more helpful. And yeah, you guys deserve every penny you're getting out there. Those bags aren't light, so people don't understand. They're like, "Oh, I can carry that bag." I'm like, "Do you really want to walk, 8 to 10 miles a day with carrying around 40 pounds?"
yeah.
Doesn't seem bad,
It
but those things ain't light.
the physical part is kind of an afterthought, because I mean, yes, absolutely, you need to be dialed in, and everybody really is. But like, I've been lucky, the you don't even think about that part after about a month. But yeah, it's like the psychological and the all that crap. There's just so much that goes into it. It's having how to knowing how to read a person and not and learn how it makes him tick and what makes him let go of all the frustration quicker.
Yep.
But yeah, the physical part I would say is like 2% of it.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
you got a good one, man. Keep doing good things out there. I know you guys are back at Torrey this week, so he obviously likes the place
yeah,
with the how he just played. So best of luck to both you guys this week. And
yeah,
now we got to get back to your deal here, man. So going back to your early days out just outside Birmingham, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your upbringing, how you got into the game of golf, and kind of what drew you to the sport?
yeah. I mean, my mom was a golf professional at a course in a small town in Alabama, and I just rode with her to work every day. We weren't like country club kids or anything, but it was I got to play for free and all that stuff. It was just like a little public track, but yeah. So I just rode with her to work every day, and I was too small to play all the other sports, so I just played golf every day.
Nice, nice, nice. Now
Yeah.
did you start taking it seriously in what, middle school, high school?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I was playing in a lot of tournaments starting at 9. I started playing, so yeah, fourth grade, I really started to get after it, and by the time I was 15, I was one of the better players in the state, and I was going to get a full ride and all that stuff. So, yeah, I was always yeah, always winning all my little like local shit, and then AJ. I started playing AJGAs. I only played 4 AJGAs, but playing the Southeastern Junior Tour
Yep.
stuff. So yeah,
Well, nice. I read an article. There was something, the New York Post did a nice article on you, but it said growing up when you were 13, you started running around with the 16 and 17-year-olds finding trouble.
yeah,
And it said of the 8 people in your high school friendship group, one became a successful engineer, 3 went to prison, and 3 are now dead.
hmm
Um,
yeah,
that's a wild situation to grow up in, man.
yeah,
And you were
yeah,
still playing good golf with all that going on around you, and I mean that's
yeah,
just a crazy story. You mind touching on that for a minute?
yeah. I mean, it was a shame. I mean, because I just grew up next to all these kids that had a lot of addiction and mental illness and things like that in their families. And, it was just a blue collar small town. And, the opiate epidemic was starting then. And a lot of like injured veterans were parents and a lot of, blue collar workers. So, like, there was just a lot of pain medication around,
Yeah.
and just a lot of the kids got taken down by it. And yeah, I mean, it was awful. And I never, no bachelor parties, no weddings, no like me, I'm going to hang out with my old high school buddies. Like, that ain't how it worked from my hometown. Like,
Yeah.
everybody disappeared. Like, I don't know where anybody is. Haven't known where they are for 20 years. So yeah, it was just a different deal to grow up in that, because we were all super close. I mean, it was fun. I mean, we learned how to do everything together and like cause trouble. And I wish I still knew a lot of those guys. I mean, they were good dudes. Like, I wish I knew at least how they were.
Yeah.
But your formative years, you can spend it with a core friend group, and then after you're out of high school for a year and a half, all of them had stolen from me. Either
Really?
money or goods, or it just became a thing where they were all so bad off on drugs that they were just trying to work me over, and I ended up getting robbed by everybody that I grew up with, and then they threatened to kill me when I called them out on it, and then I never spoke to them again. That was the routine. They
Wow.
steal from me, I say that's messed up, and then they go, you know what I mean, then they freak out.
Yeah,
So
nasty cycle, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's disgusting.
Well, after a short stint at University of Alabama, Birmingham, it said you went on to you were making pizzas on the side, you were working at a paper mill, and you unsuccessfully tried to sell your golf clubs at a pawn shop.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, First off, paper mill, really? You couldn't find anybody? I mean, that place stinks.
Well, it was just like my close friend at the time that was also in all this trouble. Like I almost went in the Navy at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Navy rejected me in '06, and because of my like previous 24 months of arrests. So had I gone in the Navy, obviously none of this would be happening. But yeah, so I worked at a paper mill for about 6 months, $9 an hour, just awful. It was just like that was the only job that was like easy and I could just like cruise into it. Like I
Yeah.
didn't have a car. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license for 3 years. So I was just in too much trouble to get any other type of work. And yeah, so I just did that. Yeah, it was fucking awful.
Yeah. Well, luckily at the end of that, the Division II Clayton College, the coach there offered you a full ride to come play, and you managed
Yeah,
to win 8 times while you were there, and also threw in the 2008
yeah,
Alabama Amateur. I mean,
yeah.
looking back, knowing what you know now, do you think that scholarship offer may have saved your life by giving you a chance at college again?
For sure. I mean, everybody that I was close to, like I just my dad and like other people just said that, like, as an 18-year-old that's in all that trouble, you think that when you get in trouble, you literally have no opportunity ever again. But I was really good at golf, so a Division II school would kill to have me on the team. It's not like I was in
Yeah.
prison. But I thought like golf was over. And then when they offered me a full ride, I was like, oh, as a young kid, you get like multiple strikes. I went over to there and was a first team All American a couple times and played awesome. And then was on the Hooters tour within 3 years, and then Corn Ferry the year after that, and the PJ Tour a few years later. So, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because I could practice for free.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, dude,
Yeah,
eight. It's one thing to go in there and hold your own, play well, but winning 8 times and first team All American,
yeah,
things like that. I mean, that's you're playing some good golf, and obviously it translated into the mini tours because you were very successful out there. And then
yeah,
2011, you had two large breakthroughs. One, you got status on the Corn Ferry Tour because of Monday qualifying into an event and finishing third. And number
yeah,
two, you developed a new friendship with heroin. Not exactly
yeah.
normal diet for a professional golfer. Can you kind
No.
of touch on that year, both on and off the golf course? Because I mean, obviously, the Corn Ferry is the big break that we're all trying to get when we're playing mini tours. We just want to get done with that travel circuit and putting up money and playing for your own money. So now your Corn Ferry is a legit tour. You're going to go out there and you're going to travel, and you have a place to play for the year. So, um,
Yep.
yeah, could you kind of touch on that year a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I Mondayed in, and I didn't start doing the H, we'll call it, until late 2012. But I was always taking Percocets and OxyContin. Like I was taking those wide open starting at like 15 years old. So I mean, I was 5, 6 years into my drug career, 7, 8 years. And but then I found heroin in 2012 when I'd like lost status, and I'll never forget, I just got through first stage. I was exempt still pretty much fully on the Corn Ferry Tour because I finished like one spot out of fully exempt, but I had to go back to first in 2012. So I played first
Wow.
stage, second stage, didn't get through. Um, I mean, shit, my picture from the 2011 final stage at PGA West, I mean, I'm white as a ghost. I look awful. And most of my tour photos, I'm just strung out and gray and just an awful, awful look. I mean, you can Google them; it's crazy. Um, Compared to what I look like now. But yeah, I mean, just started doing it when I didn't have enough money anymore to buy the other stuff, and OxyContin was being phased out. It wasn't available anymore starting in 2011. So once that went off the market, then you had to jump over to heroin.
Yeah. Dude, that's wild. And then I saw that after you tried to get yourself clean in 2013, I think it was, and you went to the Virgin Islands.
Yep, yep.
You
So
live in the
in
Virgin Islands to
2012,
get clean?
yep, yep. Yeah, because
I
I
guess,
didn't really know anybody. I'm not a
yeah.
very social guy. I mean, like I like to talk and I like my friends and shit like that. But down there it was just booze and coke, and I don't really necessarily do those.
Yeah.
You can't get pain medication down there, and that was the only thing that really was a burden.
Okay.
Yeah,
All the drugs and stuff aside, there, you in 2013 you started playing, as your words were in one of the articles, some of the best golf you've ever played in your life. You won
yeah,
the Korn Ferry Tour South Georgia Classic. You finished seventh on the year-end point standings. You got your PGA Tour card for the first time ever. Before we get into the fall of that year, tell me a little bit about 2013 and what was working so well for you.
yeah. I mean, shit, I was number one in total driving. I putted pretty good. I mean, I shot 59 over at the final round at Willow Creek in Salt Lake City. I made the last 19 cuts of the year, um, and just played amazing golf. But then, we celebrate our tour cards at the Cox Classic in Omaha.
Yeah.
And the next morning, the tour suspends me, so I'm suspended until Sony.
So you missed the
So
entire
I
fall
missed.
series.
Yeah, I missed the four finals events on the Corn Ferry, or at the
Yep.
time Nationwide. I missed those four, and then I missed the first 8 starts on the PGA Tour, serving a suspension for weed.
It was marijuana, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
that's wild.
yeah, it
So
was awful.
yeah, so I'm obviously starting at Sony, you're 8 tournaments behind the 8 ball. No
Yeah.
pun intended there, but yeah, you're obviously set behind, and obviously the suspension was tough to your bank account, but in your attempt to keep your card. But what did that do for like your mental psyche coming back out for your first year on tour?
I
Um,
mean,
was
it
it
was
hard?
it was awful.
Did you feel like you were comfortable out there? Was it like, okay, that was a what was going through your head, I guess, when that happened? Because it's like the highest of highs to the lowest of lows back to back. I mean,
Yeah, it was super humiliating. My brain, I wasn't, I didn't realize that I was dealing with what I was dealing with. Um, so, I just thought nobody could eat, sleep, or any of that during competition. You know what I mean? But it was my anxiety. I just couldn't handle it. And then when you're dealing with a drug suspension and it's, that's taboo. Um, Comes a helicopter, I guess. They caught me. Um, but yeah, it was a fucking nightmare. I mean, the whole time it was a nightmare. I just uh, I just couldn't take the nerves. I never could sleep. I never could eat. The whole time I was playing. Um, so anytime I did get hungry, I would just be so relieved so I could get some nutrients in.
yeah,
But I mean, shit, I just couldn't take the pressure of the tour. I did pretty good, but that was because I was always getting fucked up to calm those nerves.
yeah.
Um,
Didn't you come
so that
back in your
helped.
first tournament back? You were like leading going into Sunday or something at Sony.
Yeah, me, Harris English, and Chris Kirk, final pairing. I was one
Yeah,
back going into the final round. Shot one over, finished eighth. But just, I mean, that week, I mean, I was withdrawing. I was going through, whatever DTs, withdrawals
yeah.
until probably the Tuesday of the tournament. And yeah, just sweating rivers in the bed and just dying. And then went out there and was almost leading the tour event.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's kudos to you
Yeah.
for not only, like you said, you were embarrassed coming off that suspension, but then you come out for your first event, first time you got to see everybody out there again, and then you just go out there
Yeah.
and play some phenomenal golf. I mean, I'm sure you probably felt
Yeah.
comfortable inside the ropes once you got there, and just now it was just golf
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, that was kind of my escape. Getting inside the ropes
Yeah.
was always like, no personal problems at that time. You're just trying to hit a nice ball. Yeah, that was a crazy deal. It was nuts. Um,
It-
it was fucking sweet though. It almost emboldened my substance abuse though.
Yeah, kind of
because
knowing
it's
that you
like,
could still do it and still play good golf doing it.
yeah. So yeah.
What would an average week look for you? Like what would it look like on the PGA Tour for you as far as managing withdrawals, pills, drinks throughout the week, pre-round rituals, anything like that? I mean, how did you kind of I mean, obviously I went through all my crap with alcohol. I didn't do it while I was playing golf. But then
Yeah.
once I started going down that bad road and I was playing fun rounds of golf, I couldn't show up, or I very seldom ever showed up sober. I would, have a couple
Yeah.
drinks on my way to the course. And then when it started to get really bad, I started shaking a little bit, doing things like that, where I'm like, okay, this isn't
Yeah.
normal. What was it like for you, week in, week out there? And was there something that you had to do before a round of golf or?
I mean, I would go through these phases of like ultra exercise. I was at one point I could do 100 push-ups, I could do 30 pull-ups. Like I would just go through these phases of like not sobriety, but I mean, it was just crazy. Normally, I mean, with my rookie year on the PGA Tour, I would any week off, I would just be laying in a heap at my house, either with a lady that was doing the same thing, or I would still play golf though, but I still practiced a fair amount, but it was mostly just like boozing in a cart, gambling. But I mean, I was just a mess the whole year, and I would show up in withdrawal, and I would normally have like some muscle relaxers or something like that to deal with the body aches, and take like cough syrup at night to pass out. And and also I took tons of hydrocodone. I would take the Lortabs because those were and Xanax, and those were. I bet I played 90% of my rounds in 2014 loaded on hydrocodone.
Really?
Um, yeah, so those you can't fail a test for that.
Okay.
So yeah.
And could you have gone to a round stone cold sober, no pills, no nothing, and tried to tee it up?
If I was on one of my like healthy weeks where
Yeah.
I had like if multiple weeks in a row on the road, if it was like week 2 or 3, like obviously I hadn't been back at home where the drugs were, so like my body would rejuvenate really really fast. So I mean I would have some weeks where I wasn't in withdrawal. It was just only basically right when I had come from home, or if I had a pocket full of Lortabs, that always helped.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would show up at a tournament with 200 lore tabs, 6 in the morning, six in the evening every day. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, until my organs started to hurt so bad, and I just had to stop. And
That
I
was my
moved
next
down
question.
yeah,
Yeah, did your body start to, say, "Hey, dude, enough's enough here"?
yeah. When you're taking 4,000 milligrams, 6,000 milligrams of acetaminophen every day for like 4 or 5 months, your lower back starts to really hurt.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you just got to stop. And I would go to like a methadone clinic and get sober over like a week, and then I would just start practicing again. And then the next 2 years, right out of that, I made $2.5 million, just striping the shit out of it. Number one in all around ranking on the PGA Tour.
Oh, we're
And
getting
so
that here. That's the next one I got
yeah,
from you. Yeah, so I wanted to get to your 2020, what is it, 2014, 2015 season. For all the stat nerds out there, this is ridiculous. You
yeah,
finished on the PGA Tour, you finished eighth in scoring average, fourth in greens in regulation, eighth in strokes gained off the tee, second in sand saves, and second in overall strokes gained. He was sandwiched between Jason Day and Jordan Spieth, who each won 5 times and combined for 26 top 10 finishes. Now, for a
yeah.
guy that's a straight flusher of the golf ball as you are, I assume those numbers are ridiculous even for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was fucking awesome. I was number one in final round scoring average too.
Good Lord.
You know, average like 67.1 in the final round. Um, and yeah, it was just, man, it totally emboldened my behavior, and I was just out of control. And I found like a sweet spot on um my intake, and you know, uh, it was just such a party the whole year, and I just I ended up withdrawing from the second PJ Tour playoff event and renting a house in the Caribbean for a month and, spending $60,000 like flying my friends and shit down. And I had a cook. And I mean, I was acting like Jeff Bezos.
That's the part I never even heard that story. So you qualified for the playoffs that year. You went to the first playoff event, and then
Yeah, I finished the regular season in 72nd or something.
okay, yeah, it said you
Yeah.
finished 97th on the FedEx Cup, and that's obviously because you skipped the second playoff event. Um,
Yeah.
so what did you skip that one for again? I
I
never knew you did
smoked.
it for that.
Well, so I knew that I had like $660,000 off the course the next year. So if I failed another drug test, then I got suspended for 1 year.
Jeez.
So I I had started to, party, and in between the miscut and going to Boston, I had, been smoking weed, and if I failed a test at Boston, then my career was basically over.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? I don't know how you come back from that. And the events the next year were more important to me, and all the off course money that was more important to me than playing in Boston.
Yeah.
Um, so I just bailed.
And where'd you go after that? You said you went to the Caribbean?
Yeah, went to St. Croix and rented a house, and um, had tons of people down there, and I had a cook, and just, rented the nicest house on the island and spent north of 50 grand.
Sounds like a hell of a party though.
So it was. It
Uh,
was.
well, after playing the Corn Ferry Tour some more, you finally decided to hang it up in 2021, and then in February 2020 or 2022, after 20 years of addiction, fighting your own demons, lying to most everybody, you decided to get help. Um,
Yeah.
why was this the time to finally get clean, and what was it that got you to finally surrender?
Well, I mean, I'd pretty much run out of money, um, other than like my tour retirement and stuff. So, I mean, well, fentanyl was huge. When you start doing that, that's a different animal. I mean, what I was doing on tour was one thing. I was able to play great golf on that stuff, but once the pharmaceutical markets or whatever, they'd been putting these huge restrictions on pain medication prescriptions. Um, you couldn't really get that stuff anymore. So, you jump over to the heroin, and then the heroin starts getting laced with fentanyl. And then it became nothing but fentanyl. So at that point, you're just doing, like death stuff. And I'm finding somewhere to put this. So I mean, that just simply wasn't worth it. And it's a thing where, that's crazy. Like, I mean, doing Percocets and snorting some name brand oxy, that's one thing. But when you're doing fentanyl and you're about to fucking die like 5 times a week,
Yeah.
um, I would wake up just folded up in the floor of this tiny ass little shower that I had in my little trailer that I bought. And I would wake up 2 hours later, and my body would be twisted in this crazy, unnatural like heap. And you wake up, and it's just like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, you know. uh, So I would, that's a different deal.
Yeah. No, man, that's
Yeah.
wild. And obviously
Yeah.
the treatment that you found, I mean, how hard was it to come off? I mean, was it I know like for me, I went to the treatment center, I checked myself in, and my wife and kids drove me there, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And
It's awful.
I was a freaking mess in the parking lot. I couldn't stop crying. I felt just worthless. And even the first couple of days I was in there, it just I mean, it's a different animal, man. It's something. It's one of those
Okay.
things. You went from playing on the PGA Tour forever, and now I'm looking around at what I'm surrounded by, and just the lows
Yeah.
and lows. But at the same time, I knew I needed to be there because it was a better alternative than dying, and
Yeah.
it saved my life for sure. And it's what was it like for you? I mean, similar experience.
Yeah, I mean, going through what I went through was, I mean, it is, the convulsions, the dry heaving, the lack of sleep. I think I slept for like 1 hour over the first 7 days.
Wow.
So you're just seeing shit. I mean, I was taking 7 Xanny bars a day and, a gram of heroin laced with fentanyl.
Yeah.
And chugging Modelo's like the world's ending.
You gotta stay hydrated.
You gotta stay hydrated. And I mean, I was literally like, my day consisted of waking up, doing what I had, or going to Score which was a 2-hour drive. So that's 4 hours round trip. So if I could get on the road by, 8 a.m., I could be back by like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then I would just do tons of it. In the meantime, I'm like wrecking my car. I'm having single car accidents like every other day. I would always pull up to my trailer, pass out with it still in drive, and then wake up with the car idling into the thing. And it was nuts. But yeah, once you get there, yeah, it was awful. It was mind screechingly terrifying and just the worst pain I've ever felt and the worst depression I've ever felt. So yeah, I mean, you just got to go. Here we are.
I was just gonna say, I mean, no disrespect by giggling there, laughing a little bit, but just picturing. I know you're here on the other end of
It's
this call, so
crazy.
it's all good now. But man, it's amazing
It's
some of the dark
crazy.
times you can find, and I think
Oh, God.
we're all just glad you're still here and made it out of
Me
that
too.
car and out of that trailer, man. I want to take a quick minute to thank our first ever sponsor at the Uncomfortable Chat, and that's Slipstream IT, a company redefining IT for life sciences. At Slipstream, they partner with a purpose and believe in the power of technology and the life sciences to enable people to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. You can learn more about Slipstream at slipstream-it.com. And now back to Will Wilcox.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I won't keep you too much longer. I want to hit you with the 6 pack of questions, and we'll let you go get some rest so you can get after it this week. But so number one is a legendary ball striker. I want you to choose who you think flushed it the best in their prime. Boo Weekley, Lucas Glover, Adam Scott.
Um, I would say, I mean, I think Boo was one of the heaviest hitters, and with his lifestyle that he lived, which is certainly not one of, these machines out here now.
Yeah.
I mean, I hung out with Boo. I used to hang out with him all the time, and what he did with what he was talented. I mean, he still is. He was a heavy hitter of the ball, and he could do anything that he wanted. I think he was one of the most talented players of all time. And Boo is also just somebody I always just was a fan of.
You and me both.
I think Boo.
Yeah, I've never heard a golf ball come off the club face like when first time I watched his. I
Yeah,
remember where I was standing. It was one of the last events of my first year on the Corn Ferry Tour. I was in Oregon, and I just remember standing behind him, watching him hit irons, and it just made a different sound. I mean, the
yeah,
heavy ball is just the best way to put it because it just made a different
yeah,
sound. And I
yeah.
respect
He
the
was
hell
kind of
out of
like a
the
Mo
industry.
Norman, just
Yep.
so.
It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Kind of a bonus question here. Who's the best ball striker you've ever seen or been paired with out there?
Mm, let's see. Sungjae's pretty good when he's on because his dispersion is so small.
Yeah.
I would say the Brooks Koepka. I got paired with him 3 times. Got paired with Jason Day, VJ. I would say Brooks was pretty fun to watch. I mean, just the ability and the aggression, like hitting driver on 10 at TPC Louisiana. That's like a
Yeah.
hybrid 7-iron hole or like a
Yeah.
3-wood 8-iron. And he would just hammer driver down to like 40 front. And, and that's a narrow golf hole.
Yeah.
Um,
Very. That's
so,
surprising.
yeah, Brooks was fun to watch.
Yeah. I don't know Brooks all that well. I mean, we were kind of passing. He was getting big as I was leaving, and but I just love watching the guy play. I love his attitude towards his own golf, and he's as your friend Brett McCabe told me, he's a baseball player that's in a golfer's body.
Yeah,
It's
he's
a
a
good way to
big dude.
put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a big dude.
Number two, I need to know your fighting weight right about now.
How much I weigh currently?
Yeah. Yeah.
180. Yeah,
There you
180.
go. I was gonna say you look healthy,
Hey,
man. I saw you on TV the other night. You were on the Golf Channel playing the Phoenix, the Tuesday night thing, whatever it was. But you looked healthy, man.
yeah.
It looked good.
And that was a year ago as well. Yeah, I mean, I was 100, and when I got my card, I was 135 pounds.
Jesus.
Um, yeah, 135, and then biggest I ever got on tour was like 160. And then when I started caddying about a year, or 2, 3 years ago, I was, probably 165. But now I bet I'm 185 now. I mean, I'm getting massive just because, like, I mean, my life is so regimented, massive for me.
Yeah.
As you know, if somebody's relying on me, like I'm like the best worker ever. But if it's for me, if it's I'm relying on myself, then I'm not going to do shit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
if somebody's expecting me to be somewhere,
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's probably the best thing for you to be on the caddy side of the bag because you're listening to somebody
best thing
else's
ever.
rules instead of making your own rules.
Oh man, I do not need to be in my own guidelines at all.
Yep. Well, this kind of folds into number three then. So, menu for your meal at the Masters if you happen to win there.
If I win the Masters,
Yeah, you get the Tuesday dinner. What are you making, or what's on the menu for everybody?
chicken parm. I
Wow.
love chicken parm, and garlic bread and tiramisu and um yeah, I just love homemade, you know, fresh pasta and the chicken parm.
Yep. Good answer, man.
Yeah. Hey,
Give me your favorite three tournament stops on either the Corn Fair or PGA Tour. Just certain cities you loved, courses you loved, anything like that.
I certainly loved going to Louisiana on the at Le Triomphe. Not
Yeah.
necessarily for the course or any of that. I just loved the food. I loved the just the vibes down there. I loved that big corn mock shoe they had out there on the back nine. Uh,
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that, and then I'll go with TPC New Orleans for the Zurich. I fucking loved that one, and then I loved Reno. I thought Reno was a blast, staying down there on Lake Tahoe and renting a
Yep.
house, and it was just my shit. And the weak field I also liked. Um,
I
yeah,
stayed in downtown Reno the first year I went there, and I just couldn't
me
figure out why
too. Yeah,
everybody liked it so much. And then I stayed on the other side in Tahoe the next year, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's the greatest place ever." Um,
unbelievable. Yeah, it was awesome
yeah, I'd wake up in the morning early just to go take walks, which I never did on tour. But I mean, it's so
for
gorgeous
sure.
in Tahoe, man. It's
We
a
would
good
rent a
spot.
boat and renting a boat and cruising around and
Yep.
getting in that like super icy water. It was super dope.
Yep. I had the jet ski, same thing. I did the jet ski every year, and actually, I proposed to my wife down there in Tahoe as well. So that
Good
place
stuff.
always is kind of special. But yeah, yeah, and then the TPC Louisiana, the 2,000 or 2,500 calorie pro am.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
that is just some of the best food eaten as you go around the golf course. So good call
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Uh, who have been the three most influential people in your recovery process?
Um,
You have anybody you lean on?
yeah. I mean, yeah. My mom, well, she's a good sounding board. I mean, she's just endlessly positive and supportive. But yeah, my good friend Taylor in Atlanta, he's been big. Let's see who else. I mean, I'm a loner. Let's see.
I know one of my boys
Uh,
here helped you out a little bit. Lonto.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Lonto let me loop for him and stuff like that. And he, he was always my roommate and my buddy, and he was always in awe of my game, and then it flipped,
Yeah.
as it tends to do. But yeah, Lonto, he was huge. He's a great friend. I love that dude. And I don't know. I mean, really just like I'm just so lucky that I would say the pilot on the plane that takes me out of wherever I am. That's the best person for me.
Great answer.
Because yeah, I need to get the fuck out of where I'm at.
Yep.
If I'm going down a scary road, um I have the luxury of leaving because I don't have any kids or a wife and I don't have anything tying me down, and my life isn't conducive to that shit. So at this moment. But yeah, that is a good answer. The fucking pilot on the plane out of town where the
That's a
drugs are at.
that's a phenomenal answer from a addict myself here. I mean, I can understand exactly where you're coming from with that one. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Last question. I ask it of everybody. So if 38-year-old Will Wilcox could go back and tell 22-year-old Will the things that would help him live a healthy, happy, successful life, what would you go back and tell 22-year-old Will?
Stay away from those women. Um, don't don't listen to your brain. Um, and keep moving. Don't try to develop a home base anywhere because it ties back into the pilot of the plane thing. I always thought I had to put down roots and go somewhere, and then eventually I would develop bad habits in that area. But I felt like tied to it because I had a fucking house there. And yeah, I just wish I would have realized how damaging all my relationships were. Because yeah, they wanted to do the same thing that I was doing.
Yep.
You got a move to Mount Everest. That's what I'd tell him.
Good and safe, right? Different kind of powder up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Oh,
Nice,
Lord
man.
have mercy.
Well, Willie, man, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for the time, man. I know you're a busy man, and it's hard to lock you down when you got Sungjae's schedule. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's hard trying to get you for a pod when you're traveling 45 weeks a year, it seems like. But
yeah,
I appreciate you making the
yeah.
time, man, and wish you guys
No
nothing but
problem,
the
dude.
best.
No problem. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, I've been telling you I'd do it, and people don't realize. Like, I'm just sketchy with my texting. If somebody just calls me, but I know that's not like how everything works now. If somebody calls me, they can call me 10 times. I'm going to call them back within 24 hours. But texting, I mean, you see my phone. I have 490 unread texts. I just don't
Yep.
fucking answer.
Yep, fair enough.
So anyhow,
I was talking to Lonzo last week when we were supposed to record, and I said, "Hey, I got Willie coming on the pod tonight. You got any dirt for me?" And he's like, "You definitely got Will on the pod tonight." I was like, "I think so. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday." He goes, "Until he's on the podcast with you, then he's not on the podcast with you."
yeah,
And I was
that's
like,
too
"Yep,
funny.
you know that guy all too well." So,
I'm all
uh,
over the fucking place.
that's all right, man. That's all right. You're in a better
Yeah,
place now. So, and it's nice to
heck
hear your
yeah.
fighting weight's up from 137 or 35, whatever you said. So it's awesome, man.
I would say 180 is better.
Hey, you look happy, man. That's all that matters. So give him hell
Thanks.
out there this week. Go cash yourself another big check, and I'll see you here on the Florida Swing.
All right, Weedy. Thanks, dude.
All right, Willie. Be good, man. See ya.
Later.
All righty, folks. That was a great Will Wilcox. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. It's a little different than our normal, like I said, but that's some incredible insight into what he was dealing with week in, week out there. I mean, the game of golf is hard enough when you're sober and have a clear mind, a healthy body, but to try to do it with what he had going on is just mind-blowing that he could play that good of golf while taking that many pills. It's just crazy to me. I can't fathom it. But I mean, the guy was sleeping an hour or two a night every night during tournaments and was still having chances to win PJ Tour events. And his stats in 2014, 2015, that season was just off the charts. And to be going through what he was going through while doing that is just a testament to how good of a golfer he was, how naturally talented he was. But yeah, just it's good to see Willie healthy, happy, living his best life out there. So I want to thank you all for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode. All right, you guys take care. Bye.